I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Oh,
I didn't go.
did you sign it?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. You're official now. So roll call. Do you have the official roll call?
I do.
Okay. Terry's coming late, Kevin's coming late, I think then everyone else is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so everyone else is here, so we're good. Agenda approval. We don't have a printout of last, well, here's the agenda. So we have to approve this agenda to, we don't usually do that.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Oh, that is a new thing on our new agenda, it looks like.
Okay, so.
Okay.
Did everyone get a chance to look at the agenda in their email? Mm-hmm. Okay, were there any questions about what was going on? Do we approve it? We could move forward? Okay. So Marcia, sorry, the agendas are stuck back there, locked behind a door, so we're gonna just have to look at this one. The next is public comment, and we have Louise Bennis.
Right.
So it looks like you're here for public comment.
Oh. And I'm sorry, I have new hearing aids, so if I look kind of dumb, it's because I probably didn't hear you too well. But you know, I just live over here with the painted house. And so you know, my son has been an artist all his life, so he, and I wish that I could invite everybody over, but I would like to soon because we're getting our house painted, the big one, and it's going to be better and neater, but I would like people to see that the shed is already full of art, and the old house is the house I was born in, and it has the old stoves and the old washing machine, and so it has historical things in it. And I go over there all the time and feel so at home, you can't imagine.
So right over here is the painted house. Where do you live?
I live in the big house.
The tan house that's right, essentially behind it.
So if you go out the parking lot, like the side parking lot, is the first house on the right.
Oh, so here's the painted house. You're right next to him.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So we would really like to have it be an art destination of some kind. And so I just wanted to feel it out a little bit. We don't have a lot of money right now, which is not so good, but I have a granddaughter that's trying to see if she can find a grant that might help a little bit. And we'd really love to add another building that would be like a coffee shop, or just make it a fun place to come and where other artists could show their art as well. And maybe with the old house, a little bit of the old Superior, because it's disappearing. Every time I look out one window, I see these big bulldozers, and then I look this way and the bulldozers. So I wish we could, that we could keep it and make it something interesting. So I guess I just wanted some feedback a little bit, and because I haven't really asked anybody, you know, if I could do that or not. So that's kind of.
I think your timing is great because we're working on a master plan for the arts, and so it's nice to know your thoughts on what what you'd like to do, and we can definitely include you in the master planning process for sure.
Great.
Yes.
I think it sounds really exciting. I think it fits right in with what we're talking about creating like a arts and culture district and a historical district. I love the idea. I think it'd just be so cute.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming he does not live in the house.
Oh, no, the old house is just like it was.
The painted house.
Yeah, the painted house. It's just
no one lives in it. Okay.
No.
I think the idea.
And it's not the painted house that's getting painted, is it?
No, it's
I'm sorry, honey, I can't hear.
It's your house. The tan house is getting painted, not the multicolored house that your son did. That's not getting repainted.
No, it's just her house. Yeah, just her house.
Yeah, your house.
I was born in that house.
Okay.
So, you know, yeah.
I wanted to say, I can't speak for the whole group, but I think that the painted house is wonderful, and I was glad to see the painted shed added.
Oh, good.
It's now painted too.
We'd like to make it, you know, the yard is so bad and it's so big and so many weeds in Superior.
Yeah.
But we really have, you know, we're trying to get my other sons to help us with money and stuff. I would just like to feel that maybe the town would feel that it's okay and that we wouldn't be doing something that would offend. We'd like it to be something that people would love to maybe, come and look and have coffee or something.
I think that idea of I don't know how you go about making that a public space or having the ability to have it be a sort of a gathering place, because it's really an amazing piece of art if you think about it in today's world with all of the, the work that's done in murals. And so to me, I think it sounds like a really cool idea for the city going forward.
Well, I really look forward to maybe, they're supposed to paint our house, real soon, and all the decks will look better. I'd like you to come and look at his work. Not that he really wants to share with other artists as well, but he's got art everywhere. He's quite good. He sold some, and he does that outsider art, no mountains and rivers, but outsider art is really important in the world today. So if you had a really good mind when you win, I think you'd be impressed with his work. So.
Would he be interested in coming and talking to our group?
Would he?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
But he'd really like better to have you come to the house and see some of his work and talk to him.
We would definitely love to do that.
Yeah.
Like
And is it Tyler? Is that his?
His name's Ty.
Ty.
T-Y.
Okay.
the last name is
Bennett.
And we're talking about making part of the plan would be some type of grant to make something like this happen.
Mhm.
Right, yeah.
My grandkids would be lost if they didn't know that's where they're supposed to turn. They know, because I live in Colquitt Crossing, so they're like, oh, wait, this is the house. So they always know where they have to turn to come to my house.
It is,
Well, that's important.
Yeah. They wouldn't get lost because they wouldn't know they could find the painted house.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll keep you posted on the master planning, and we would love to have Ty give us a tour.
As soon as I have that done, I'll let you know, and I would love for you to all come and
Okay.
kind of
thank
look
you.
at the
I would
inside.
love to. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so on to new business and updates, and you can see that Patrick has changed form and turned into Dina, and she's going to give a little introduction and tell us about herself.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm so thrilled to be here. I've been on the job now 28 days. It's been real exciting. I come to the town of Superior from my own company, a consulting company called Art Management and Planning, and I was there for 7 years, running that company with my husband. We focused mainly on art management, which is in the name, so managing art collections from public art to fine art in anyone who owns it, corporate collectors, private collectors, municipalities that have art collections, art centers, museums. So everything you can think of, the way you put your hands on the artwork and move it and clean it and take care of it or fabricate it, that was our management side of the company. Hello.
Welcome.
And then the other part of our company, also in the name, is planning. So we focused on arts and culture master planning, and that's where my specialty lies, in arts and culture planning as well as public art program management and project management. So that's my background from the last 7 years. I was thrilled to be able to work all around the state the last 7 years, including working on master planning projects for the city of Boulder, Castle Rock, Breckenridge, Steamboat, everywhere from the mountains to, the Front Range. And I also worked with Downtown Colorado Inc. on some advisory projects, doing master planning for small towns like La Junta and Florence and Manitou Springs. So I have a real great understanding of arts and culture in the state and what's working and what's exciting and lots of ideas. And then lastly, the other part of my position at Art Management was helping manage public art projects for municipalities that didn't have public art coordinators on their staff. So, for example, I just finished a project last June with, feels like it's just, but it was a while ago. Last June, I finished a 2-year project with the City of Lakewood, helping them develop a 4-mile walking and biking arts experience, and that's called the 40 West Art Line. So I come to you with experience with creating arts experiences on trails and in downtowns and in arts districts and creative districts. Prior to working in my own firm, I was a public art program manager for the City of Aurora for 8 years. And while I was there, I developed 3 strategic plans for the Arts and Culture Division. I installed and managed over 100 public art installations. And then I had, over the 8 years, I would say approximately 10 to 12 art exhibitions that I managed in city facilities, from libraries to the town center and rec centers. So I have a depth of experience in managing municipal arts programs and also consulting for municipalities and communities that want to use the arts as a tool for making great places. So I'm thrilled to be here and to find a community to join, since I've been roaming the state for 7 years. And so I'm very glad to be here. I thought one thing we could do for us to start to get to know each other is a little icebreaker. That might be fun. Yeah. One of the things that I like to do when I facilitate public meetings is icebreakers, and generally, you know, when I meet all kinds of people, whether you're an artist or you're an engineer or you're an architect or you're, you know, you work in a restaurant, or whatever industry you're in, people always have something to say about art. And they either have a friend or a sister or, you know, some family member that's an artist, or they have some kind of art experience to share. And so I like to do icebreakers in kind of that vein, because everybody has a story to share about art, whatever it might be. So I thought maybe we could start by doing a quick little share out of your first experience having seen or touched or participated in public art. And that could be anything from the first sculpture you saw or the first installation you got to walk through or what have you. What, if you can remember way back, what was your very first exposure to public art?
I remember mine. I was at the Botanic Gardens in Atlanta, and they had a Calder exhibit. And it was the first time I remember seeing just bright colors and it moving. You know, so you were under it and you were in front of it, and I thought, oh, I mean, I actually had like an emotional reaction to it. So that's when that's the one I can remember when I thought, oh, that's art, you know, so that was kind of cool. So
Nice.
it was cool. And then I tried to recreate that in art class, but I realized I will never, ever be an artist and never developed past stick people, really, so.
But you're a singer, so you do have art.
I'm not a singer. Yeah. So,
Art comes in many forms.
yes.
Who wants to go next?
Well, I know, I don't know if it's the first, but I know of an experience that really changed my life and how I thought about art. I was in college in Maine, and I was just biking everywhere. Just, that was how I got around, and just going out for long rides and thinking. And one day my friend and I were riding, and we came across this field where there were all these bumps and these weird things in them. And we went out into the field, and somebody had literally created all these art sculptures out there, or these pieces. Like, one of them was actually a woman laying down, arms spread, and there was grass all over it, but it was clearly a naked person laying down. And what we learned later is that the sun rose up over on the equinox, right up over the butt crack on it. But there was like a spiral, there were a bunch of other things, and it was just such an amazing place, because at that point I thought art was just in a museum or a sculpture outside, but this was like, there was no sign, there was nothing that said art here, we just like literally discovered it. And it was truly amazing, and I've never forgotten it.
Very good.
I guess I'll go
You want
next.
to go next?
It's such an interesting question, because I honestly am racking my brain to think of the first time that I was kind of aware of art, because I was raised in a house where art was part of everything. But just as you're saying it, I got this strange flashback of being in kindergarten, and my teacher's name was Mrs. Schutte, and I was, doing whatever kindergartners do, and she came up to the teacher's assistant, and she had in her hand, we were all playing with clay, making strings of bowls or however you made it, and this little girl or somebody had made this perfect flower, like it went up and it had stamens and pistils or whatever you call them, and it was perfect. And the teacher was like, "Can you even believe this?" And I remember looking at it and thinking, "Oh, that's art." But so it's just so strange that, anyway, that's what came to my head.
I'm Kevin, by the way.
Hi, Kevin.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, and welcome. It's interesting that and my example is also sort of more in the public art. I think a lot of people, when they think about art, they think about museums or, so I grew up in the East Coast, South Jersey, and then New York, and I remember living in South Jersey in a veteran community outside of Philadelphia, and there was an old farmland that was preserved, and there was a covered bridge by the farmland, and then the farm had been preserved, and on the weekends having art shows, and it just, even though it was this veteran community, and this was not by no means, at least in my memory, I'm going to move when I was probably 9, it's by no means the center of town. It was just this interesting farm where people would convene, and it was, and my mom was I don't know how she passed ages ago. She was involved. I don't know how she was exactly involved in that process, but I do remember spending presumably Saturdays being there and really enjoying it as a kid. So it's a really nice question.
Oh, well, okay. I was thinking, I absolutely can't remember the first time that a piece of public art outdoors affected me, because art has always been there. Like you were saying, somehow with your family, it was always there with my family too. My father was an artist, and then they got married, and I was the oldest of 4 children, and the other 4 children were like 1, 2, 3, 4 right after me, and the household was bedlam all the time. And I was looking for some place to go and be quiet, and my father said, "Here, take my oil paints and brushes and stuff and find a spot." So the laundry room was kind of dark and spooky. The other kids were too young and they didn't want to go in there, so I set up in there and started painting and kept on painting and went through school and painting and college and painting and a part of various local groups. And Front Range Women in the Arts, I don't know if you've heard of, was one of the groups that I was active in. And I always was looking for that quiet space, and now I'm very happy to be retired and have a really large, nice, quiet studio in my home. And the last piece of public art I went out of my way to see, because I do go out of my way to see pieces of public art, but the last one I went was only about a month ago, when I went and looked at that one that's the gateway and the arch over a piece of the Boulder Creek up there at the corner of Pearl and Folsom. Beautiful arch there with an iron work top.
Thank you.
So public art is always out there, and it's always springing up new pieces all the time.
Who wants to go next?
Well, I remember when I was 12, my grandparents took me and my older sister, who's 13, to Norway because we have relatives that still live there. And they took us to, I want to say Vigeland Park. I think that's the name of the artist, and it's a huge park with a bunch of sculptures. They're all nude, and some are in pretty suggestive positions. And I remember just being so mortified, so embarrassed, because you have to act, like, oh, this is great. And I don't, just represents the whole spectrum of humanity, and all kinds of different people in different positions and emotions and things like that. And there's a whole huge tower of bodies that are all intertwined and things like that. And I remember just thinking, okay. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I brought my 2 boys back there last summer, still feeling awkward about it. Still feeling awkward. Yeah.
But you took them back.
But I took them. You gotta go. You gotta go.
Yeah.
In my case, my mom was the art coordinator for a school district. And my dad was an artist, but later went to be a psychologist. But both of them, from the time I was little, they did art all the time. My mom was like a Picasso, kind of the Picasso expert, so she would do programs all over. We spent our summers in Boulder, and it would be the most boring thing ever. She didn't know what to do with this, and so she'd drag us to the CU art labs, and we'd sit there and just, play games or whatever while she would potter and that kind of stuff. And so she actually in their basement, and my mom and dad are still alive at 95 and 96. And she still does sketching and, that kind of stuff, portraits and that type of thing. So it was from the time I was little, but I think probably the other part of it, they were really more culturally involved with like music and how music and jazz and that type of thing brought people together. So music as a cultural art. Well, they did art all the time and sculpture, and we have Picasso paintings all over it, and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. But they were very involved with bringing community arts programs and that kind of stuff to the community, more for music than even for art types of things. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing, everybody. I like doing that exercise because it really expresses the power of arts. And all arts, like music, not just visual arts. So from what you guys shared, the arts help create memories, and, whether they're fun or shocking, they create memorable experiences. The arts inspire imaginations. And the other things I heard you guys sharing were that arts provide opportunities for people to gather and bring people together. The other thing that's interesting is when you create those memorable places and those memorable experiences, you go back to those places, like you did. You took your children back to the same place. So it's the power of the arts is impactful on communities in a lot of ways. So I always like to share that little kind of synopsis of why I like to do that exercise. So thanks for indulging me.
Well, thank you. It's fun. Okay, so on to a quick report about the dinner. Personally, I thought the dinner with the board went well. Did anybody else have thoughts on how the dinner went and where we want to go from there?
I love their perspective. Yeah. Just hearing, oh, what about this? What about that? Do you like this? Do you don't like this? How can we do this differently? Or those kinds of things. Actually, the most shocking thing that surprised me the most was Clint Folsom when he was at a mayor's conference at the Parker Art Center. And his comment that he would really like something like that in Superior, and I'm like, whoa. Yeah. That was a surprise, actually.
Now, who else been to the Pace Center? I've never been.
Oh, it's really spectacular.
Yeah.
Next Thursday's there. Yeah. Oh.
Where is it?
It's in Parker.
Oh, Parker. Yeah.
But the way they designed it is it has the performing arts component on the stage, but it also has glassed art galleries. So they have a constant rotation of local artists. Like when I was there, they had the winners of the the high school or something, so they were on display. And then they have art displayed on the hallways. And then they have an outside piece, and then they have some food. So you can go outside and hang out before you see the gallery. It's just, and then I
Super
can't
design.
remember, I mean, even the entrance, just Google it. Like,
And they have a creative district.
Incredible art just in the,
Oh, do they have a creative district
It's
that's
not
right around
it's
it?
not a certified creative district, but it is
Okay.
a creative district that they've been working on for years.
How old is the Pace Center?
Paces,
What do you think?
10,
10 years.
That old?
close to 10.
Ah, that surprises me.
Yeah.
actually.
It's not that, it's just big enough. Like,
Yeah.
it's not huge, it's perfect. It's a
What's-
perfect size.
What's the population in Parker?
Now,
You know?
gosh.
Well, Clint said it was exactly the same as Louisville and Superior.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
come on,
That's
right,
right.
right.
So presumably 30,000-ish.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about it, Parker 10 years ago was like nothing.
Right.
I mean, I wonder what their population was 10 years ago when they started the whole process for the Pace Center. That would be interesting to know and how they,
And geographically, they have it right at the end of their very cute,
Main Street.
renovated Main
Yeah,
Street.
and that's their
So-
creative district.
oh, is that what it is?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Oh.
is cute. I was there right before Halloween, and almost every shop owner was out decorating the storefronts, and I mean, just so cute.
I want to say one thing about the dinner. I'm really glad, Daryl, that you just threw it out there when there was a change that looked like needed to be happened with the Dewey sculpture.
Yeah.
Because the change that they're proposing is significant, you
Yeah.
know? It's like, visually, it's like almost half of the image, you know what I mean? And the closest up part of the image. So I think takes more than one discussion to get this thing right.
Absolutely, and we will bring it up a little bit again in a later agenda item, but that's a really good point that we want to discuss that more. And so one of the components too is we took the pedestal part out of the contract, and so it's the town of Superior's responsibility. So, and we did talk to Dow about what he liked and that kind of thing, but the reality is it needs to be what we like. We're ultimately paying for it, so we want to be sure that what the sculpture is going on is what we are hoping for. So.
How did the two timelines fit? Putting in deciding on what those edifices will be versus when he's ready to install.
We can have it can we do that later when we have the agenda item?
And thank you for calling them edifices, because I think it's a mistake to call them pedestals, because I think that's where they got this idea from, you know?
Maybe saying pedestals.
Yeah,
is
they're
the
really
wrong
much
word.
more than pedestals. They're integral organic shapes.
Do you have any ideas, Kevin, from your perspective?
Around the pedestals or
No,
just
the board, the dinner.
They're not.
I thought it was great. I thought y'all did a really nice job. You know, I obviously do a lot, and this was one of the better ones, I think. So thank you for that. You know, sometimes people come in with big asks. I think a lesson about the road closure, for example, I think what your instincts are, they're going to be right most of the time. And we have too many committees that are convinced they can't do something because they don't have a budget, or somebody told them that they're not allowed to do that. This is not a board that's going to think that way. And so if you have an idea and you think, gee, we need to close a road, but, oh my gosh, we can't close a road because somebody told us we weren't allowed to close the road. Nope. You should make that request, send it up through Dina and I, and we'll work through it and, you know, advocate on your behalf. But if somebody tells you something, oh, you don't have a budget for it, oh, you can't close the road, oh, you can't do that because it's not part of this or that, just understand the board is here to support you. You guys did a tremendous amount of work, had support from the community last year, and evidenced by the increased budget, the board wants to support you. So I thought that was a good lesson. I actually liked when I think you guys said, well, we can't close the road, or we kind of didn't think we could. We're all looking around like, of course you can. Now, I think where you position it is fine anyway, and I think your concerns around crossing the street are also good concerns, but we can get traffic cops or deal with something, or we'll figure that out. But I thought that was a good lesson that and that happens a lot when committees come to the board. They say, well, we don't, we couldn't do that because the $5,000 budget we had was exceeded, so we couldn't make that swing set handicap capable. Oh my gosh. Like, yes, we could have, and of course we want to do that if that's the right thing to do. So, thank you.
Great.
Okay, any other thoughts on the dinner? Are we ready to move on? Okay, so the next is discussion item, community planning process tutorial and input. And so we do want to turn off the lights, and Dean is going to run us through a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, now I think I'm supposed to talk into this for the camera. I don't know that if you necessarily need to hear me through a microphone, but I wanted to put together a tutorial, as I'm calling it, so that we can all be on the same first step when we get started with this master planning process. And I did watch the dinner video from Monday night, and I'm really impressed with all the research you guys have done on other municipalities' master plans. So I just want to say bravo. I think that, you may not necessarily need a tutorial per se, so I don't want to offend anybody if you're more advanced in the ideas that I'm going to show tonight. So you may already know a lot of this stuff. So I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page, and then also kind of be able to provide my perspective as a consultant doing master planning, and how I have found processes that work well in the planning methodologies. Just for example, community engagement. That's one of my specialties, and it's one of my favorite things to do, is getting people involved, collecting their ideas and really listening to their voice and transforming that into a plan that can be implemented and not just sit on a shelf. So those are the kind of things I wanted to share with you from my background in master planning. So first, let's just talk about the basics, really. What is a master plan? And this is just a definition I found that is pretty basic. And there's a lot of words in this PowerPoint, so I thought we could read along together, and I'll probably do some ad hoc talking. But I wanted to make sure everybody has this. It will be online tomorrow. I will upload it to our website, so if anyone wants to have a copy of this or share it, you can get it. So master planning is a primary method cities use to coordinate between public agencies, community advocates, elected officials, and other parties to ensure that new development projects lead to equitable and sustainable growth. It's an outline that guides the growth and development of an area. So that's real basic. That's just a basic idea of what master planning is. I wanted then to share, well, what is cultural master planning? So how does that fit in? So cultural master planning is a planning process that helps local government to identify cultural resources and to think strategically about how these resources can help a community to achieve its civic goals. Focuses on the cultural resources and asks how they can be developed to improve the vitality, prosperity, and success of the community. And then a cultural master plan examines the community goals to see how cultural strategies can help achieve them. And there are a lot of different types of cultural master plans. And I thought I'd like to share with you this handout that goes over the types of cultural master plans. They range from, a very detailed, comprehensive plan that's community-wide. I'm going to pass this out so we can look at this together. I'm going to give you half and give you half. And then again, all these handouts I will put on the website tomorrow.
Do you mean which website?
Your website.
Arden Superior?
The CAPS committee website.
On the Town of Superior?
Uh-huh.
And can it go into Dropbox somehow?
Sure, yeah, we could do that.
If that's what we're really
Yeah.
using?
So I wanted you to focus on the last two types of plans because that's where we're going. So there's a lot of different plans ranging from very, very basic to very, very detailed. And we're looking at the last two plans. One is called a cultural component of a municipal or regional plan, and it's kind of a vertical strategy. And what that means is that arts and/or heritage and/or culture are integrated vertically as one part of a city master plan. So it becomes a section, if you will, of, for example, a city's comprehensive plan. The second one is where I think we are, and it's the last one circled, cultural component of a municipal or regional plan that's horizontal. And this means that the arts and/or heritage and/or culture are integrated horizontally across a city's master plan, which means that each division of the local government would consider arts, culture, and heritage as a resource to help achieve their goals. So it becomes integrated into everything that we do. It's not just a silo art program that doesn't touch any other part of municipal goals. We'll get into...
Wait, it doesn't, what did you just say? It doesn't touch any part of municipal goals?
It does.
It does or does not?
It does.
That it
It
would.
does, okay.
So where I'm suggesting we head is where we're doing more of a horizontal master planning process where arts and culture are integrated into everything we do rather than a vertical plan, which is a siloed, one-off kind of plan that only talks about art and nothing else in the community. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that and how that relates to creative placemaking in a minute. But you can study this handout a little later in more detail too. So the next slide then talks about what makes a good master plan. And this is a list that I have, I made myself that I found has contributed to the success of some of the plans that I've worked on. Inclusivity and collaboration across sectors, government agencies, and the public, creating cross-pollination. So everybody who wants to be involved can be involved to share ideas. Defining a shared vision that's authentic to a place. So we want to find what's the authentic Superior. What is this place all about? We don't need to know what Boulder's about or what Louisville's about. We want to know what's authentic Superior. A shared understanding that arts and culture contribute positively to communities. So it's that is actually a goal that we could have, is to create a shared understanding, because we may not have one right now, and we'll discover that through the planning process. The next bullet is focusing on building networks, relationships, and partnerships during the planning process. So in some ways, the plan process is the goal. We want to build community through our planning process. And perhaps the document itself, the end result, is really not the impact. The impact is the network we create, the community we build, and the people we engage. And so in my line of thinking, that's the strength, is creating community through arts and culture. The next bullet is an emphasis on place-based strategies that are customized for this community. And again, it kind of ties back to something I already said, but we really need to find out about this place and these people here. The next is building on existing community priorities. So we don't want to work in a silo in arts and culture here. We want to work with all of the town's goals in mind, all of the community's goals in mind, because we can help energize this city through the arts in a variety of ways. And that's what creative placemaking is all about too, which we'll get into in a moment. Making community input activities fun and creative. And that, to me, is one of the main goals of the master planning process. Because who wants to come and sit in a stuffy conference room and just answer, questions? Let's make this fun and energetic and get people excited about coming out and talking to their neighbors and giving their input and ideas. So with that being said, the next slide talks about placemaking. So, well, what is placemaking? I heard at your Monday night meeting, many people touched on that buzzword. It's a big buzzword right now and has been for lots of years, but people are really starting to understand its strength. It's been a method in a community planning process for 30, 40 years now. So I just want to read these directly so that I don't miss a thought here. Placemaking inspires people to collectively reimagine and reinvent public spaces as the heart of every community, strengthening the connection between people and the places they share. Placemakers refer to a collaborative process by which we can shape our public realm in order to maximize shared values. So what that's telling me is we're using the people to make our planning process. We're planning for the people by the people, is essentially what placemaking is. Placemaking can empower communities to create a sense of belonging and lead community pride. And those are the, I think, key differences in placemaking than if you're just doing a master plan without talking to the people. So I wanted to hand out one more thing here, and this is developed by an organization called Project for Public Spaces, and they have been working in placemaking for 30 and 40 years, as I mentioned. They're perhaps the first group that really found out the key to the success of placemaking, and I thought I'd share this handout. I'm sorry it's not in color, but this on the screen is in color. So the way that this works is the inner ring, if you are looking at this inner ring here, this is the place. So this is the focus of the planning study. And these 4 things around the ring, those are the activities that directly affect the planning process for the place. So you're talking about the uses for a place. How social is it? Access and linkages to the place, and then comfort and image. So how comfortable are people and what do they think about this place? And then you start to get into the other rings, the outer rings that really are starting to give you some qualitative things to look at for each of these areas. So for example, how safe is it? That contributes to how comfortable you feel and what you think about the place. How clean is it? Is it green? Is it walkable? Is it sittable? I think that says. Is it spiritual? Is it charming, attractive, historic? So all of those things contribute to how people feel the comfort and image level are. And then so on and so forth. So access and linkages. These are all the qualitative details that go into determining how accessible and how linked a place is. So on and so forth. This outer ring now are the kinds of things that we can use to determine the quantitative, the data that you can collect when you're trying to measure what makes a great place. So just for example, over here in social ability, the street life. How many people are out on the street? You can quantify that. Here, evening use. Are people out? How many people are going out to restaurants? You can quantify that. Volunteerism. How many volunteer hours are there in, maybe there are events happening. So this outer ring is all the activities that you can quantify and collect that kind of data. So that's how you then start to figure out how great a place is. And I just wanted to go over that because these are some of the things we're going to be touching on in our master planning process and learning how to collect quantitative data so we can count and have statistics, and qualitative data so that we can have more anecdotal stories about why a place might, why Superior might be a great, comfortable, active, sociable place.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So with the consultant that we hire, help determine some of this and have a, a chart at the end of the day that says Superior is here on the Great Place chart, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is one of the things that we can direct them to do. So we will give them a list of deliverables that they need to submit in the master plan, and that will include an analysis of our existing conditions.
Okay.
And that would be cool,
Yeah.
because then if you start from here and you keep going up and up and up, then hopefully 5 or 10 years from now, you're looking and saying, oh, the town center, it had 0 foot traffic or whatever, and 10 years later, it had this up here, and we know we can measure it, and that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know that we
Can
ever
do
really
that?
thought about that.
Yeah, so you want to make sure, what we're doing in year 1, how do we know we're getting to achieve our goals in year 5? And so we have to quantify it. We have to have anecdotal stories that help tell the story of our place. So then I thought it'd be really important to get into this buzzword, these 2 buzzwords, creative placemaking. So we just talked about placemaking. That's general placemaking. Now, how does creativity come into the picture? So creative placemaking is a whole nother step. Creative placemaking is a way of looking at all aspects of the community's cultural life as a community asset. It integrates the arts and culture more fully into the community, demonstrating how cultural resources can support the delivery of a spectrum of community priorities. And this comes from Art Place, which is a national organization that gives creative placemaking grants. And the second bullet point, creative placemaking creates an understanding that culture and cultural activity are resources for human and community development, rather than just merely a cultural product to be subsidized because we think they are good for us. So what does that really mean? One of the thoughts that I wanted to share are some ideas in which we can do creative placemaking that will integrate the arts into everything we do in the town, not just siloed art programming. For example, we may want to hire artists to do certain design work for the community, whether it's signage or plaques or landscaping or functional art, seating, you name the function, tables, those sorts of things. So you can start to integrate creativity into all of the things we do. Trainings, for example, we had the boards and commissions training a couple of weeks ago. Having creative activities during the training processes is also a way to integrate arts and creativity into everything that we do. Here is a kind of another list of what creative placemaking is. And I thought it'd be really important for us to be all on the same page about what creative placemaking is. It's not just using, not just putting art on a corner. It's really integrating creativity and art into, like the first bullet says, using arts and culture as a tool to animate public and private spaces and to rejuvenate structures and streetscapes. Creative placemaking brings diverse people together to celebrate, inspire, and be inspired. It places artists and art at the center of planning, execution, and activity. It leverages the creative potential already present in a place. It connects arts and culture to a larger community revitalization initiatives. It engages in cross-discipline, cross-sector activities, advances a shared community vision, honors community distinctiveness, and lastly, avoids displacement. So this is a list that I got online from, if you Google what is creative placemaking, there's a lot of really great resources here. So I kind of combined a few lists to create this list. Essentially, we want to make sure, from what I hear you all have been talking about, is doing creative placemaking. We don't want to silo our arts projects and only the art people working on them. We want the whole community, no matter what industry or what income level or what neighborhood you live in, to participate in arts activities. And creative placemaking is the title for that effort.
The last bullet avoids displacement. Does that just mean that we want to avoid people feeling disconnected to the community and the culture, or is it broader than that?
I think it's a combination of that, but also you probably heard that whenever there's a successful arts district that gets built, the creative people then and the lower income people get displaced because now we've gentrified an area. So those are the things that creative placemaking tries to avoid, is displacing anyone who was already there originally from having to move or leave their location because it was gentrified. So from there, I was going to do one more handout. And this is the document I mentioned I got the bullet points from. I almost forgot to hand that out. So this is a 4-page document that explains what creative placemaking is. So really, when you have some time at home, please review it, because I think it will really help you when you're out there talking to your friends and neighbors and your coworkers about what's happening here in Superior. It'll help you with that kind of language and to how to explain it and not sound like you're out of this world talking in art language that nobody knows what you're talking about. So that kind of gets us into some more nuts and bolts of our planning process. So in general, this is how a community planning process flows. So we start here at the beginning with community vision and buy-in. And that is going to be the heart and the soul. That is the base for our master plan. We need to reach people. And now, I don't know that we'll get all 16,000, if you will, give or take, residents to give us input, but we're sure going to try. So I'm guessing we'll give the consultants, depending on their schedule, 3 to 4 months for community vision and buy-in. The next flow here is then they're going to do research and gather information. So what that means is we're going to give them a to-do list, essentially, of research deliverables. That may include doing comparable city research. So what other towns in the country, not just Colorado, are about the same population, about the same community characteristics, about the same, you name it. What kind of characteristics are similar to Superior? What are those communities doing? And how can we learn from what they've done well or what they haven't done well? So we're going to give the consultant some marching orders to gather that kind of research. Then they're going to also do some, perhaps some primary research, which means they're going to go and they're going to speak directly to our people and ask questions to gather data. So we'll do an online survey, I would think. We'll do perhaps intercept interviews at community events or pop-ups, perhaps. We'll probably give them a list of key leadership to speak to and do one-on-one interviews. So that's the kind of stuff they're going to do. They're going to go and they're going to learn about our community, and they're going to bring back the research in a report for us. Then they're going to take all the information they gained throughout the first few months, and they're going to analyze all the info. They're going to synthesize it, so they're going to put it together, and they're going to try to understand it. What did all this data say? Then we flow over here to this bottom, and they're going to create some plan options for us. So at this point, they'll give us a preliminary plan. And that's when they will come back to you, and perhaps you will go then to the board and say, this is what our consultants learned, this is what they're recommending, what do you think? So we're going to go back to the public, and we're going to say, what do you think about this? Did we hear you right? Did we miss something? Is there something that you forgot to tell us? So then they're gonna gather that information and then finalize and create an action plan. And that will be an implementable plan with tasks and roles and responsibilities on who's gonna do what and how we're gonna do it with what resources. And they will come back to us and say, here's the plan, this is what I heard. We got your input a few different ways, here you go. And then that's when we will then take it to the town board and go through that approval process, whatever that looks like. From there, once it's approved by the board, then this is long-term, it's ongoing. We will continually monitor the progress. So the consultants will be required to give us our performance measures, if you will. How are we gonna know that we achieved our goals? So they're gonna give us a list of things that we're gonna track on an ongoing basis to know if we've met our goals. And then it's my job as the staff to ensure that plan doesn't sit on my desk. And I'm sure you won't let me let it sit on my desk.
Are you kidding?
So,
Yeah.
A year of blood, sweat, and tears?
yeah.
So what I'm seeing is about a year's timeline from the community visioning to the approval process. So are we looking at sometime about this time next year to bring it to the board?
Yeah, approximately. I mean, I think the best case scenario might be January, but it really
But we
depends
still have to
on.
go, we have to do the RFP and hire the
Right.
consultant. So this happens after that.
Yeah, and it really depends on their schedule. So one of the things we'll ask them to submit in their proposal is what's their timeline. So that, you know, if we have someone who's 2 years out, we may not want to use that consultant. But if we have someone who can jump on it right now and perhaps do this in 6 months, maybe we'd like to go that route.
Okay.
So then from here, I know you guys have done a lot of research on other plans, but I thought just, you know, to have it in, again, all on the same page and some ideas, I wanted to show some examples of what other communities have done. So this is the table of contents of these communities' master plans. So Boulder, just for example, they have an introduction. The introduction usually always includes a narrative description of the community. And usually we talk about the strengths and opportunities in this introduction. The history, so where are we from? How did we get here today? The planning process is always really important to share with people so they know how we got to the end result. Community priorities, so Boulder has developed community priorities, and that's what they call their goals. So you can see here, Silverthorne calls them goals. Boulder calls them their community priorities. I think they have 5 or 6 community priorities. They have a vision statement, so we're going to want a vision statement as well to help us dream big and figure out how to get to our end goal. Then Boulder's has strategies, guiding principles, which I think are always really helpful so that we know what our values are as a community, and then an implementation plan. In Silverthorne, very similar. Their table of contents reads this way: introduction, they have a vision statement. They also have a mission. They have goals. I think they have maybe 6 or 7 goals. They're very interested in how the arts impact their economy. So they have an economic impact study. I think that we should do something like that, but probably more regional. Maybe we'll do a Boulder County kind of thing. Then gaps, so kind of what are they missing? What kind of opportunities have they been missing over these years that they can fulfill? And then case studies. So our research will include case studies. We could call them case studies or comparable city study, or, you know, it's different names for different communities. Frederick has an interesting plan in that their introduction has lots of context, like that's their history, so they just call it something different. They have an analysis, so what are their existing conditions? What did their community survey say? Then they have guiding principles and goals, and then an implementation plan. So you can kind of see there's commonality among the plans. And our table of contents will look something similar to this. Now where everything changes is in your priorities, your goals. And what do we do with the input? Another thing that I wanted to share is that's becoming more and more common in creative planning is doing participatory art projects. It's a really fun, interactive way to get people to come and provide their input. You know, like I said earlier, who wants to just sit in a boring boardroom and have a meeting? So let's get people out, come do something fun. We might do an intercept interview as you're standing there making art. We're going to collect information while we are having people meet their neighbors and gather and have fun. So Silverthorne did a really great project. I don't know if this artist would call it licensing, but she has done this all over the world where she will set up these chalkboards. And of course, everyone's encouraged to come and write what they would like to do before they die. So it's a really inspirational activity, and you can see how busy it gets. She's done these in all over the world. It's pretty amazing. This is one that Adams County did. Did anyone hear about this? It's also perhaps one that's a licensed kind of activity that you can do, licensed from Nancy Belmont, but it's called a Unity Project. And this is a way for people to come together and make a piece of art together as a group and work as a team. And they had these set all over. This is just one image from this whole installation. Really fun. So you can see they become temporary artworks in the community. Arvada also had one. They hired a local artist named Judy Gardner to create a family fun forest. So they got all these branches and bare branches, and everyone got to paint them, and they made a forest. It was really fun. This one is one of my favorites. I decided to go up to a big city in another state, Boston. This idea is real fun. They hired 3 artists during their planning process to go and talk to the community and create artwork based on those efforts. This artist decided to do wraps on the city car. So the city-owned fleet. She did the wraps that showed the ideas and aspirations that people have for their community. And you know, this is something that I don't know if she would license to us, but you know, the idea is not necessarily copyrighted, I would guess, but maybe we could do something this exciting and this thoughtful where we're driving around every day. Why not let people know some aspirational thoughts about how, you know, we want to be here. So they called these artists ethnographers. I really loved that they actually had a job during the master planning process. So bringing out, you know, that in mind, we're later in the agenda going to talk about the pop-up and main event, and I'm thinking that we can harness the power of the pop-ups and the main events to do our participatory art campaign to help energize the master planning process. So I have just 2 more slides left, but I thought before we get into those, because they're more of a decision-making brainstorming slides, are there any questions or comments or thoughts about the last however many minutes I just talked?
Well, I think we've all been accumulating all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Daryl's been really good at sending out all kinds of ideas, and we've talked about the participatory art at the main events. Well, my gosh, the mural.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a participatory event.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it was very well received.
It was
So
very well received.
I think that
Yes.
the next
yeah,
rendition of it in terms of Prairie Dog.
participatory art, whatever that is or however that looks.
I think we're right on track.
We are.
Yeah.
Who
Are
would
we
have thought?
having any kind of a come see the mural event?
So is a really good point. It's kind of fallen off the radar.
Yeah.
Part of it is because there's such, the construction down there. That's something to put and think about, because that would be a nice, and maybe when the weather's a little bit better, we can go do it. There's still actually 2 missing tiles, but thankfully we painted it blue so nobody really notices.
Oh.
They just have to get sawed down, they're too big. And so they're literally sitting in my house waiting to be sawed and put back up.
Do it in the summer, you know? Yeah.
Any other thoughts about
Yes, exactly.
creative placemaking or master planning?
Well, we must have found, when we did that, we attended that workshop last April, we must have, because I have all this stuff. Do you guys have all this? I don't know if it was one of the sessions that I went to.
Probably.
It might have
For
been.
the project for public spaces.
So Dina's company was there.
Okay, at that,
We totally ran.
at the
We
DU
probably
thing,
sat
because
next
all
to
this
each other.
is very, yeah, I was gonna say, because in the guys who did the one that was in downtown Denver and stuff, I think that they used a lot of this
Yep.
project for public spaces.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we're right on track
Yeah.
in terms of thought process. I mean, you brought up a few things that we hadn't thought about in terms of the quantitative data and things like that I think are really, especially, I mean, before this committee, there wasn't a lot of art going on in town. It was very quiet. And so it'll be easy to get that quantitative data.
Yeah, that, I mean, it could be super impressive, actually.
Yeah.
If you start from essentially nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
And take it up to where you have the town center and you have Superior Marketplace or whatever that might look like, and you're actually doing all these things using creative placemaking in and about town.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
And I do think, and I'm pretty sure it was part of your thought process, but the economic component, because that's huge.
Mhm,
I
that
mean,
is
I think
huge.
not just for the town, but for the artists and the people that are coming here and wanting to do the placemaking and the art as well.
Yeah, I think this is really fun and useful. I like that it's so practical, because I think like we've all just kind of been bouncing around these ideas, but we haven't really got to the point like how do you quantify it? How do you actually put this into practice? How do you make it happen? So I think it'd be fun just to even kind of have a discussion just on, you know, how we see the town based on this spectrum here. I think it'd be fun. And
Very
also,
good. You just predicted my next slide.
Oh, great. And then,
Yeah, I was gonna say, we
and
could
also,
do a lot
like,
with this.
There's, you know, in the history of this town, I think, you know, in all of our development that we've done, I feel like art has really not been on the radar really at all. And so this would be really revolutionary for our town. So it's
Well,
really exciting.
Yeah, do some really cool stuff.
And I
with it.
think there's a sense that I'm hearing is that the board is giving us the message
Right.
that
Keep
they
going.
will, you know, go ahead. They see the importance of it, as you pointed out, going across, you know, not just being segmented, but getting, so I think that's a real positive. Deanna, if I have a question later, can I email you?
Please.
What's your email address?
It is, and that's the other thing, I'm going to pass around a sheet so I can get everyone's contact information for myself, because I realize I don't even know how to reach you guys.
Are you getting the caps?
Dina,
That's on the list.
D-E-A-N-A,
I don't,
M, at superiorcolorado.gov.
At Superior.
I don't get
Yeah,
that.
you do.
I don't get any email that comes through there.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing.
No. If people use the caps at superiorcolorado.gov, I don't get it.
So, any other
If
thoughts or
people forward it, then
questions? I
okay.
can go to the next slide and we can do some brainstorming.
I think we're good.
Okay. So, that leads me to this. So, how is CAPS going to lead the charge? Right? So how do we get all of this community engagement going? How do we, you know, give direction to the consultant? How do you stay in touch with the board? All of those things. So first, I made the assumption that you'd like to serve as the steering committee for the consultants. And what that means is you would be meeting regularly with the consultant to go over progress, to relay information that you've gathered, listen to what their analysis is, and all of those things. So it's kind of just touching base as a steering committee, leading the effort. So what does that mean? So setting priorities, providing information to the consultant about the community, organizing task forces if they're needed, informing trustees during the process, reviewing the draft plan, recommending the master plan to town board for review, and evaluating the implementation progress. So as the leaders, we could invite more people to the steering committee, and that would be other community leaders, such as perhaps the chamber, or perhaps someone in economic development. I think there's going to be a new economic development staff person coming on board. You know, so people who are touching a variety of areas in the city that are in every industry, in every field. So perhaps we have a 10, we'll have to ask consultants, 10 to 15, maybe 18 person steering committee. And the steering committee would help do all of these things.
Are you talking steering committee or expanding the CAPS committee?
Steering committee. So this would be an additional committee to the process.
Okay. I'm just concerned with large committees. It's difficult enough to get consensus on
Sure.
6 or 8 people,
Yeah.
let alone.
So-
But when you come to art projects too, my finding is the more people that you have input on the project, the more the integrity of the original project gets watered down.
Sure.
How would they cross over with the CAPS committee? I mean, so we belong to the steering committee
Yeah,
as well?
I guess what it would mean, there are several ways you could do it. You could appoint a few people on here to be the steering committee, and then that steering committee reports back to this group. Or this group is the steering committee.
I think that's.
Or you make a whole other committee. It really is,
Yeah.
it's really up to you how you want to.
I think
form
we
it.
want to be the steering committee, and then stakeholders, that's a term that comes to my mind, are the people that we draw in and have separate from like the whole community gatherings that we want to
Great.
have as well.
Sure.
So that's the way I envision it.
Yes, I agree. Otherwise, we're,
Well, yeah, because you could, and most of us are linked in some way or another to the chamber or to school districts or, you know,
So maybe you're each
businesses.
assigned some sort of network where you are then doing the next thing, which is acting as the ambassadors.
Yeah.
So you will be the ambassadors of the project, getting your fingers out into the community and doing the networking and community building. Ambassadors usually would encourage residents to get involved and build the network and gain the buy-in. Next, providing preliminary research. So, for example, you already have some documentation of what you'd like to see included in the master plan. I don't know what that document's called, but it's in.
It's a brainstorming
It's a
master plan.
brainstorming.
But it was pretty, I mean,
Yeah.
Claire, when she put all this together, I mean, it's pretty detailed,
Yes,
actually.
it is. And
There's a lot.
Succinct.
I told her,
It is.
it's a master plan.
Yeah.
I said, Claire,
No.
you wrote a master plan.
Yeah, we all, obviously, we added all these.
Yeah.
and-
So that kind of information will be given to the consultant. Other things that will be important, I'm hoping that you will be interested in providing. So for example, here, inventory of existing conditions and opportunities. So your observations of your place, your observation of the opportunities that you have been, you know, dreaming of doing something with all of these years. So that kind of information, we already have it in our brains. Maybe it's on a piece of paper somewhere. We could provide that to the consultant.
Yeah, and there's a document in paper called Opportunities.
Great. Yeah, so that kind of information, we need to provide whatever we can to the consultant. So they know what rocks to turn over in their investigation. And then an inventory of your creative assets. That's not just what art is on the street. That's every creative asset you can think of. Your historical society, your creative people, you know, businesses, artists, other creative assets could be programming. So what kind of arts and culture programming are there? So we want to create a list of these assets.
Really easy.
Yeah, we've got that covered.
Yeah, sure. So that we can provide it to them. Then, the last slide. This is kind of where I thought we could do some brainstorming that will help me write the RFP and provide some direction to the consultants. So, my first question for you is this. Are we doing a creative placemaking plan, or are we doing an arts and culture plan?
Might depend actually on who you ask.
Yeah.
Because mine is creative placemaking. So,
Yeah, I think, we will define it, and then you could say, is it more creative placemaking or is it more a cultural plan? But right now, I don't think we can say it's going to be creative placemaking and that's this, or it's going to be a cultural plan and that's this. You see
Well,
what I
we
mean?
kind of have to give it a title now. We have to give it a structure, because that'll depend on what consultants are interested.
What does
So
a
if we-
cultural plan, pardon me,
That's okay.
okay, I think we defined very clearly creative placemaking, but is there a definition for a cultural plan, how they differ?
Yeah, so I talked about that just earlier, and I may not have, I probably should have asked this question ahead when I was at that topic, so you could think about it.
Can they knit
So-
together?
Right, so a cultural, arts and culture plan, I see as more of a plan for a department of arts and culture for a municipality. We aren't that, so we do not have our own department. We don't even have our own division. So we are part of a department that has, taken on this activity and is really gung-ho about making it work. So I think in that way, we can't necessarily just be an arts and culture master plan because we don't have the infrastructure to just be arts and culture.
So in your opinion,
Yeah,
from what
yeah.
you've experienced, maybe?
Well, and you all have been talking about placemaking and creative placemaking so much. I've been, I've read all the meeting minutes for the last year or so, and I've watched videos of your meetings, and it just seems like what you're talking about is trying to get the arts integrated into the core of what the town does. And I think that's what creative placemaking is at the heart of it. And there's going to be a difference between a consultant who can do creative placemaking and a consultant that's going to come in and tell us what kind of art programs to make for the city.
Yeah, because if you even look at Boulder's master plan versus Vale's master plan, they're very different. Vale's is definitely like
Art.
Visual art usually.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's probably public art specific.
it is really
Yeah.
public art specific. They don't really even talk about theater or music or food or, any of the other cultural arts, whereas Boulder actually ties in a lot of everything. And then they talk about relating it to community development and economic development and that kind of stuff. Really, it's a much bigger picture
So
than.
you need a place. I mean, it's chicken or egg. You need the creative place to implement the cultural plan.
Right, arts.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
I think that it's a broader
Right, it's
definition
broader.
rather than a narrower. And I think in my head, I kept thinking, well, if we call it cultural arts plan, then it's broader. But it sounds like it's not really, that creative placemaking is the broad look that we
Yeah.
want.
And the creative placemaking ties to the overall goals of the community as well in a more in-depth way, because we are using a creative tool to achieve greater community goals.
Like Santa Rosa's, remember when you sent that one out to us? Theirs was pretty much visual, whatever,
Yeah, very much.
art. And how they would rank it and how they would reach out to community for a piece of sculpture, and do you like it or not? I mean, theirs was definitely just the artwork.
It was very much, I'm sure you might be familiar, it's a
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. I've used
I mean,
that
it's
one as a
super
sample
extensive.
before.
yeah.
And a really big deal,
Yeah.
but it didn't bring in how to do a sense of community and vibrancy and economic development and,
Well, as simple as this sounds, I guess we actually need physicality of, oh, Superior does have this place, if you will, or, you know,
Well, and
like
that's-
even what you're suggesting, this beautiful little house, you know, becomes a physical manifestation.
Right, yeah, and that's a really big key that you just said there, that we have to have these places, and what we want to do is find out what's so authentic about these places, what's, you know, the authenticity to me comes from the people. And then, once we understand the people, then we create the places to bring them together.
I think there's a lot, you know, that's, I understand that's a, you know, common perception of placemaking in places that already have a whole lot of residents. We have the unique opportunity of starting from scratch in terms of creating the kind of place that we would like to be seen in a sort of global sense. And I think improvement that involves aesthetics and the arts and dance and music and all of that package is vital to creating the kind of community that they would like to see. But placemaking, as I'm understanding it now, as you've just been talking about it, seems to utilize in other communities that are already established certain thing, like it's a warehouse district that they want to make low-income housing for artists, or it's a old and you know interesting looking street through a neighborhood that has come filled with small shops that they'd like to see it become trendy in that area. So you see what I mean? They call on something in the past or something really specific in the future that they want to see happen with this specific street. Well, we don't have those constraints at all. So I kind of would hate to see a whole lot of energy, especially, you know, our energy towards bureaucratic sorts of things. I would hate to see a whole lot of energy be diffused in, you know, bureaucracy. And I think we were sort of counting on you and maybe the art consultant to be doing that while we're like hands on the street, you know, painting. Well, we're physically painting and we're showing people how to paint their squares and what'll happen to them, and, you know, being the staff members that are operating the main event. And, you know, just planning those things is enough.
But in order to get the consultant, we need to, it sounds like we need to decide whether we want to go the creative placemaking, if that's truly how our master plan is defined, or if it's a cultural arts master plan.
Well, should we make a vote? I mean, you know, is that, I think you're asking us to make that decision, right?
Yeah, I
As to
would,
which way
I
we
am
go.
asking that as a staff person that has to write the RFP,
Yeah.
so that you can give me the input on how I can describe what we're doing, so that we can get the right consultant to apply. So for example, it's not called a Parks Master Plan because we won't have, you know, we won't have any Parks Master Planners apply for our plan. So, you know, only Parks Master Planners apply for parks plans. So that's kind of where I'm getting at. If you can help me with that input,
Well,
it'll help us narrow down who we're gonna get.
I have one last question.
well, okay.
Could we just
Well, no, you can
to,
bring it to discussion.
okay, can we just say, is there a possibility of saying, yes, it is creative placemaking with the, you know, allow the cultural plan concept to come at least as part of it? I mean,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
so that
absolutely. There's
they're
arts
not
and
just-
culture in
right,
it.
okay.
So for example, we will have probably a section on public art. Like, what does our public art plan mean? And what are we going to do with it? You know, what are the goals around public art? Then we're probably going to have a section on, well, I wrote notes from your Monday night meeting. Let me get those. Oh, here they are. Just for example, we might talk about a historic district section.
And that's
Or creative.
placemaking versus the
Cultural
art.
arts.
And
Right,
so,
right.
so the art can get folded in the various locations.
Yeah.
I think we're in agreement.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think we're all.
but we should
Oh, and there'll be
probably,
a section on private development art. You know, like I have all these categories that I wrote down from your Monday night meeting that you wanted in, you know, events, maybe classes and workshops. And, you know, so all the arts and culture will be captured in it.
Okay. So, does someone want to make a motion? We want to do creative
I make a
placemaking
motion to do creative placemaking for our
for our
the art of master
Yeah.
plan.
yeah, I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Discussion, do we?
Oh, do we want a discussion? Yeah.
Probably should have more discussion at least.
More questions, Jane?
Well, I think I'm going to abstain because I still think that we have more power if we regard it as a cultural plan, because then both Deanna and the other person can come to us and say, okay, what do you think about this for the...
They're always going to come to
It's-
us. I mean, they're not going to make the plan in a vacuum. We'll be intimately involved in
With a
it.
plan, yeah, but not with placemaking. We're talking about placemaking as what is the identity of Superior, and everything feeds off of that. And it looks to me very much like if we put that as the overriding category that we're talking about, we're inviting that person to make their interpretation of placemaking with some input from us, with some input from the community, with the person's background, maybe having come from inner city situation where, you know, redevelopment is a big thing. So I think we lose control by it would make that person our creative placemaker.
I don't think that's, but that's fine. If you
I
don't want to
think
vote, that's fine.
Ceding too much control.
Is it possible, and I understand the differentiation that is necessary for job description, is it possible to define this position we're looking for as creative placemaking and a cultural plan? Is that too much to task a consultant, you know, like when you write the RFP, that is what we're looking for? Or is it
I
too broad?
guess not necessarily, but I think in the end, you know, you look at a document, because it's going to be a document,
Okay.
and it'll be spiraled down and look pretty. There has to be a title. And so that's also kind of what I'm getting at too, is the method of the planning process is engaging the people, and that's what placemaking is. Creative placemaking is when you use the arts as a tool to engage the people and use arts as a tool in the implementation of your plan. So that's kind of where I think maybe I may have not explained the difference between the two very well at the beginning, because placemaking is a method of planning that is all about the people and their place where they live and work. Creative placemaking is when you use the arts as a tool to get at who the people are and what they want their places to be.
Which includes harnessing our
Yeah.
heritage, culture, history. So I
Yeah.
think
It
if you're
includes
afraid
music,
of
yeah.
creative placemaking, divorcing itself from our definition and our identity, I don't think that's true. I think in it, as a creative placemaker, we say, okay, we want this park or art to reflect our mining history or whatever. Like it's not.
Yeah, another example could be, there are two other title kind of ideas, just to give you kind of more of a broader thought too. So my job title is Cultural Arts and Events Supervisor. So it could be Cultural Arts and Events Master Plan, because it relates exactly to what our program is called. Then the other option is to use the CAPS name, Cultural Arts and Public Spaces Master Plan. So that's another option. So I just want to throw out there kind of to you what the options are. They're bigger than, they're more options than just the two I have listed, but maybe the additional options kind of give you an idea of what I'm getting at, is we need kind of a title and an approach to our planning process.
Well, and when you're looking for this consultant for the RFP, don't they kind of go almost down a fork in the road, that you have a person who really is, I don't know, they might have their master's or PhD in art or whatever, so they're really focusing on that cultural art aspect of it. Whereas over here, the creative placemaking not only includes the arts, but it's almost like urban planning or something like that. So when you're sending out the RFP, do you want someone who really, really knows their art and can guide us in how to pick that? Or do you want someone who takes everything, the history, the heritage, the community, economics and all that kind of stuff, using art, and that would be creative placemaking. So I think that, I'm guessing that's what you're kind of saying, is when you put it out to RFP, do you want someone who knows public art really well, like someone on staff at the, at Chicago, for instance, or,
Right.
We want it to be broad.
We want it to be broad.
Right, because we are still trying to develop our identity.
Right.
And that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Art is part of it, but there are other means and other ways that we're incorporating into it.
And art, as a word, it can put itself into a box, and people kind of, they say art and I can't do that, and so I think if we use something like creative placemaking, we might actually get more people to participate, because the minute they think art, they're like, oh, I don't know anything about it, I don't want to be involved. And creative placemaking is more inclusive and more open, in my opinion. It may involve art, it probably will involve art, but it will bring more of the community component in to help guide us.
That's a good point.
I'm still going to abstain. I'm sorry. I have
All right,
this
so there is a
image.
motion on the table.
I have this image of, we were back selecting the Dowie sculpture. Dewey?
Dow.
Dow. I keep getting it wrong. The Dow
Just think
sculpture.
D-O-W and you'll be fine.
And we were like narrowing down from 126 applicants or something like that. And each time it went down, we were like, I sure wish that there was a professional art consultant to comment as we got farther and farther down. And I think we still need that in our future. And so that's why I like the idea of the person that has more of the art background as you describe it. So I'm going to just abstain.
That's fine. So there is a motion on the table. It's been seconded. Could someone tell me what it is again? That we go with
The creative placemaking, yes.
Okay. Everyone, those in favor, raise their hand. And those opposed? Those abstaining? Okay, so that answers that.
Okay.
And then, I wonder, we are running out of time.
I need to know.
Yeah, we need answers.
We need answers.
So I wonder how much of this we can hold off and do at another time, just because we
Or even
have-
do the Whole Foods, the brainstorming,
What?
when we meet
At our next-
the second.
Yeah, we can work on some of this,
Because a lot of this
absolutely.
is really, this is a lot of really that brainstorming stuff. How do you define cultural arts?
And what is superior, I
Yeah,
think
what's
this
it
is
known
great.
for?
If
This
we have
is-
this information, we can start parsing it out at our next whole
Yeah,
foods
and really
meeting.
talk about it and brainstorm.
Okay, perfect. Not to cut you
not
off
to-
or anything.
I'm
but-
just like, it's longer than I had expected to.
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead. I want to just, because this recommendation needs to get to the OSAC committee, I put together just a couple of pages to look at. Dina, are you able to pull those up?
I do have it up.
Oh, I almost brought it with me. I printed them out.
Just based on the feedback that we got from our last meeting, we wanted to recommend a gateway and recommend like a frame or something along the trail. And I
Doctored up.
I doctored up.
I know, it's
It's so cute.
I know, it's so cute. I know, so you send those over to OSAC?
I'll just send it to Sean at OSAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somehow or another you communicate with him so he has our
Yeah,
ideas?
he sent an email just recently asking and reminding us.
Okay.
It's It's just a PDF file.
Oh, I know where I have it, in the agenda.
It's in the agenda
Yeah,
as a
just
link
like
right there.
there.
Yeah. Okay, let's turn up the lights. So I just put together a few ideas so they could see visually, and I literally, took a frame and put our mountains in it so they could see it. But the idea is the CAPS committee would like to recommend a blank picture frame installed along the trail. The frame would add whimsy and fun to the trail experience. The top example shows how to possibly brand the superior experience.
I love the way you presented this, so you can take it to OSAC and the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's already there.
That is cool, so they can actually see it.
Now, didn't we look at some image that kind of had like a
Yeah, that's
So
the next page.
So the next one is the archway idea that we,
Yeah.
you can scroll. to
There it
page
is.
2.
Yeah, that's-
So, we loved the idea of ripping off the tagline, the gateway to Boulder Valley. And this was just sort of a really nice compact gateway with benches and a wayfinding sign. So the CAPS committee would like to recommend the use of some sort of archway gateway at the entrance to the trailhead. The use of, I need to fix that, of an arch is a nod to our town tagline, the gateway to Boulder Valley. In these examples, we love the archway, the way it incorporated benches, and also wayfinding in a compact, artistic way.
Is it they way or the way?
The way.
That what?
Oh, the way.
Sentence,
They way.
The way instead of they.
Oh, yeah, there's two, I see 2 typos, so I can fix them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
It does look great.
Is that what we were all thinking? Because we
It
were trying to be.
incorporates the frame. I think it's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it does look so cool.
Picture us, but I could also see people like meditating there or stretching or pondering and.
And if they have, and if they have the water, they have the warming house, and I think those are still gonna stay, even though there's not a lot of land.
It's a good
Yeah, warming
selfie
house.
place.
Well, or some kind of the railway station shelter, with the bathrooms and, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so you guys good if we just, I fixed a couple typos and I'll send that off to OSAC?
It looks awesome. It's gonna be really, I hope they go for it.
Yeah.
That's not expensive or.
I don't know, after hearing about Patrick and the
Well, that's true,
rocks,
that's
I'm like,
true.
I mean, there's a lot of things we could, but I think based on what Patrick said, the length of trail we actually
Right.
have to work with, all of those things, I mean, if they want more ideas, we can give them some, but I think these are 2 really simple, nice,
effective, fits in with what a
Yeah, that they
trailhead is,
could
yeah. Is
potentially
it, now, do they vote on a name? Do we
I
just,
have-
does everybody just call it the Shan Shan Trailhead?
No, that's the property name.
Well, I know, but everybody says, the Shan Shan.
Yeah, it's too
they
late,
call
no matter
it
what they call it. I think
I
it
know.
will always be.
Well,
Shan
no,
Shan.
that's not true, because Founder's Park was Town 9 forever.
Oh, was it really?
And then it was named Founder's Park.
Okay.
They call it Founder's Park.
Can I just add a little art history nugget? Is Shan Shan, is that obviously it's Asian, is it Japanese or do we know?
I have no
Only
idea.
because in Japanese art, there's something called Shinto, which is archways, just like that, which frame the beauty
right.
of natural beauty.
Oh, fun.
And, I mean, that's exactly what it is, and if they in fact keep that name, it'd be such a little subtle nod to the, framing the beauty of nature, so.
Again,
no
that
idea if you
heritage
Put
and-
that in, yeah,
That is
but it's.
That's a nice
Yeah,
little
really cool.
twist.
That is a nice thing.
Do you think when this may be a stupid question, but I just wouldn't put things past these people, but do you think that anybody will notice that archway really should be situated in a place where it's actually looking at something nice? You know what I mean? Like,
it is.
That they would.
yeah.
That's not facing the
Is it
bathroom.
necessary to mention that, the.
I don't know that we want to give them that detail. I think that,
Okay, right.
I'm pretty sure they've given that.
They would face the
I would
mountains.
assume that they
And
would
the
know
parking
that the
lot.
archway goes
We
out
could
to
put,
the.
please don't face the bathroom.
Yeah, the gateway to Boulder County in front of the women's
Gateway,
bathroom.
yeah.
Gateway to the bathroom. Sure. Good point, but I think especially with the wayfinding sign, it's pretty obvious that we want you to be looking out
A vista.
at a vista, so,
And the views are so awesome
yeah. it's
from
pretty
that
awesome.
trailhead.
Okay, all right, sorry, we gotta move on. Pop-up activities and planning. So one of the things, Jean, I'm sorry you were sick. One of the things that came up briefly in conversation with the board at dinner was to maybe not do the prairie dogs. Prairie dogs are potentially controversial, you know, there's,
Oh, did
whenever-
that come, I didn't catch that. Did that come
we
out?
talked about the possibility of doing something, and Dina and I spent some time when we were traveling talking about the possibility of doing something other than a prairie dog.
Other than a rodent, you mean?
Well,
Because people want to exterminate them, or what's the name?
well, it's problematic because they do damage to people's property, but then when developers come in and there's a prairie dog colony, what happens to those prairie dog, you know, it can bring up hard feelings and,
So what do we come up with instead?
well, so a couple ideas. One is potentially an owl. We have the owls that nest right over here. And one of the very first unique ideas was gateways. And I'm not sure how we can pull that off, but, you know, there are, or Dina had mentioned not just gates, but maybe something that went on a gate. And she has a couple of programs that she's done where you can tell us about the programs
sure.
that you've done that
Yeah.
are kind of fun.
Well, we started doing lots of brainstorming on the airplane, just about everything. And when I asked her if she thought people might be open to exploring new ideas other than the prairie dog, it was really because I wanted to find out really if the prairie dog was a very close to the heart specific icon for this area. Is a prairie dog something that you guys feel very like warm and fuzzy to, that really says something about Superior? And I thought, well, if the answer is not exactly yes, then maybe you might be open to finding something that is very iconic of the area, iconic of the people, that might help us with more branding of our master plan. You know, something that could be really exciting and energetic. Just for example, I worked on a program in the city of Aurora in their arts district, and we created what we called the chair fair. So we had these chairs built about this big, and we made about 100, and we gave them to professional artists and, you know, town, whoever was interested in decorating this chair. So then we used it as a tagline, take a seat for the arts. And then we displayed those chairs around town for, I think, at least a year. And then at the very end, we had an auction gala where we auctioned off the chairs and we raised a little bit of money. In the end, with the 3 years of fundraising we did, we raised $40,000 for a sculpture in the Arts District, which happened to be a 12-foot tall blue chair. So it's just something that it went along with the community because we were able to make this tagline, take a seat for the arts. And it helped us with promotion and activities around getting people engaged in the arts.
So you could do
And so-
oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I thought, well, what is it about the prairie dog? Is there something special about it that could help us achieve some goals? And if there isn't anything particular, maybe we could do, you mentioned the owls. We came up with a couple things as we were brainstorming. The gateway idea, well, it's hard to make a gate, but we could make a decoration for a gate. Like maybe we have a beautiful piece of metal cut out in a certain shape, and we give that to people to decorate or paint or collage, what have you. And they can hang it over their gate. And then that kind of goes along with gateway to Superior. So something like that, that really matches what we're all about, and maybe some of the community icons we already have.
I think you could make gates. I mean, I hear what you're saying. The prairie dog is funny. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
wonderful concept of, you know, you think of little prairie dogs popping up, but,
And it's, I think, like a cartoon character that appeals to children. So
Yeah.
that was a big going for it.
And it
Well, what are
always
the
is-
goals? Yeah,
It's
what
hard
are
to
your
hear
goals?
that things have to be, this is just maybe a personal creative prejudice, when things have to be so unbelievably politically correct.
Right.
It makes my blood boil.
Right.
But I hear it, I understand it.
Yeah.
It's the world we live in.
I was thinking
But a
a great-
gate is pretty neutral.
Well, I was
Open the
thinking a
gate.
great thing about those prairie dogs is that there's definitely there would definitely be a divide. You know, the kids would love them, unquestionably, and want to paint them or whatever. And some of the parents who've ever had property where they came in are gonna hate it. And the people who are very green and environmental and want to save every kind of animal are going to love it. And it's controversial. I wouldn't be surprised if it had a newspaper article.
But
Well, the other thing that we talked about on Monday night was the possibility of doing bikes.
Yeah.
Because, you
Oh,
know,
right,
lots of
bikes.
people around here who ride bikes.
That's so
you know.
true.
Yeah.
And then you could do bikes in all different
Yeah.
formats.
And one
So-
thing I like about bicycles is that if we were to auction those off, that's a usable thing, that someone might really want these bikes, bikes of, that could be used by
Yeah.
men's bikes, women's bikes, children's bikes, that people think,
Aren't we
oh, I
gonna
want this cool
decorate 'em?
Yeah,
we
they
might
might want a
wanna
cool
get,
decorated
we could
bike.
get them
Oh, okay.
donated, maybe it
Yeah.
is a functional bike.
Well, and there is a bike component to the 4th of July parade. So the bikes are always in the back of the parade.
And we've got two
And-
bike
Right.
shops here in town,
Yeah.
so they might be willing to work with us.
And I think I put a thing up on Pinterest of those bikes. They go along a trail, they're like metal, I don't know. I mean, I think there are artistic things you could do.
I have a bike hanging in my yard.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And I don't even think about it anymore. When people are like, why is that there? I'm like, why not?
Well, there is an artist in town who photographs bicycles, right?
Oh, the guy,
right,
like the
guy
Whole Foods
at the
guy.
Whole Foods.
Maybe you could
Yeah.
photograph our bikes somewhere
Yeah.
in Superior.
Yeah, so the thought is, let's find something, if it's prairie dogs, that's totally fine, but I just wanted to see if everyone was open to finding something that spoke to Superior, that was celebrated here, and that we could use to like further our efforts in getting people engaged in the arts. And is that the prairie dog? If so, let's do it. But if it's not 100%, yeah, it's prairie dogs, and what other things could we do?
I don't have any strong feelings for the prairie dogs. Do you, Jane? You're the one. who's-
No, I mean, honestly, I am extremely comfortable. I happened to jot out a little email to everybody today about maybe, a plan for the prairie dogs, but any word could be stuck in there instead of prairie dog. So, no, and thank you for
Could
being
it
so
be
considerate.
little painted homes?
It could
and
be little
inspired
painted
by
homes
Luisa's son.
With prairie
you know?
dogs and, no, I
Oh my
think
gosh.
We could do little mini painted homes,
it'd be darling, yeah.
little
But
dollhouses.
Well, so
I'm okay with it.
well,
And thank you for
if you do the hanging gate thing,
the gates would be great.
the gate or the bikes, something that they could physically actually, I don't know, you could probably paint owls.
Well, the thing that's cool about the bike, and it goes back to, we do have bike shops in town. The Morgul used to go through town. Bikes are for the parks. I mean, everybody
Loves them.
bikes are an amazing device to get around, so we could incorporate transportation, and it's not polluting the environment. So there's a lot of pluses.
It's probably a lot more politically
and bike,
correct.
And we're the
nobody's
conscious,
against bikes.
Nobody's
conscious
against bikes.
community.
Yeah, no, I
Sports
really
Stable is
agree
doing
with you
great
on that.
business, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that might be our identity.
My only, and I'm the one that
You brought it.
she brought it up, thought of the bikes, but the one thing I really liked about the prairie dogs is their bulk. And how they're big and unique, and how
paint
people
them.
would not accidentally miss them,
Right.
right? My
Yeah.
fear for the bikes or even the gates, which I also love, is that whatever it is, needs to have a wow factor, something that is going to stand out wherever it is.
So that's
they
the goal,
notice
that's
them.
one goal we
Right, so
want
that
to
they
achieve,
notice
is a
them.
wow factor and something noticeable. And maybe there are some that are permanent. Permanent meaning we own them, and maybe some are whether auctioned off or given away, something like that. But I know that was one goal as well, that we actually retain some so that they are around town. Whether we move them around or they stay in one place is a whole nother, topic, but.
Which I do love because, we could have a few around town that are usable, right? But then there could be the 6 that we retain that are
Colored place.
discombobulated the
Oh,
sculptures,
yeah.
right? So that they-
Like the bikes going into the haystacks.
Well, and they could be a fabricated bike and not a real bike.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
honestly, we
I
could,
actually kind of like that idea better, that an artist could take a fabricated bike, and obviously you know it was a bike, but they could move it, manipulate it like the bikes that were in the haystack or the bikes that were along a
Do
trail.
something creative
And
with it.
it wouldn't, more kind of decorate them or use art.
well, the pigs in Cincinnati, when we were in the airport, they took the pig sculpture that everybody was
Right.
given, and they added wings and propellers and all kinds of crazy
Yeah, I love
stuff.
them.
Yeah, and
so
add stuff
So-
to them to make them creative.
It's not just paint the bike or collage the bike, it's,
Things come out. of
maybe
the
there's
bike.
rockets going out, yeah, I mean,
Well, and
whatever
it's like
the
the-
artist's creative.
Maybe it's
juices
naked.
are.
Naked people on stage.
Just for
We
you
already had
guys.
almost
Yeah,
a
thank
naked
you.
lady on the bike up on the hill.
Yeah.
I've seen her, I saw her close up today,
The naked
the lady on the bronze.
Oh, really? With the tank top and the
Yeah,
short
that's
shorts.
true.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there could be the historic component, you could get that the bike with the big front wheel and the little tiny
yeah,
back wheel,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more creativity in the bike versus the prairie
Okay,
dog.
make a new Dropbox.
How does
And
that?
we do not have to land on that tonight, but we do want to make a decision sooner rather than later. And I'm one of those people, I like to process a little bit, so I don't want to just throw something out there and go, okay, we're done with the prairie dogs. Because seriously, if we love the prairie dog, let's go with it.
Can't they emerge in something, I mean, as opposed to branding Superior with the prairie dog, is it possible to, bring them out in some form? Maybe they're not, a bullet point, but they can exist or be created. They don't have to be wiped off the board, right?
Oh, the prairie dogs?
Yeah, that's
You
all.
talked about the little mini ones
Well,
that we
because
could make at the
I was
main
mentioning to a
event.
couple neighbors, and we had that big field,
Yeah,
behind our house.
so great.
So if you take those 24-inch or whatever metal that people can decorate, you could be going down the field, walking through the park, our field, and you see everybody in the neighborhood who wants to creates a prairie dog
Yeah.
/ bike / owl, whatever.
Whatever it is.
But it lets people create things that they can put around, whereas the bikes might be too big.
Well, you
I
could
don't
make
know.
mini bikes, you could have
And they
little
could-
mini some things. I don't know. That's why I want to
Okay.
think about it a little bit. I mean, I think we all feel like the bike might be a good idea, but let's reconvene and
Brainstorm some more.
brainstorm a little bit more. Think about bikes. Maybe just keep it to the two, the prairie dogs or the bikes, unless something else really fabulous.
What happened to the owl?
What happened to the owl?
Oh,
I mean, I don't care. but-
I didn't hear anybody else say owl, so that's why.
Well, I mean, I have an owl that sits out behind my
Keep it
house.
simple.
I have one more idea that doesn't have to be used this year, but would be fun to do something with eventually, and that is to do artwork out of coal. Chunks of coal.
That's brilliant.
There's an artist in Colorado that makes these beautiful sculptures out of chunks of coal. And how cool could it be if we got chunks of coal, and you could paint it, you could decorate it, you could carve it, you could do whatever you wanted to your chunk of coal, and we could display them, and it could just be really fun, real tie to the history.
Some googly eyes and make little pets.
Exactly, that's right.
You pet coal as opposed to you pet rock.
Oh, now you're just about to be a ritual.
No idea.
We do not read
When I think of coal, I think of charcoal.
That are sculptures.
On pillars.
You could carve prairie dogs out of your coal.
I think that is, what a great use for something that is so disdained now, It's embarrassing. Oh, we're.
Okay, you're gonna start a Dropbox
Okay.
on,
Yeah, and
what are we calling this? Positional art, pop-up positional art, or?
Icon pop-up.
icon pop.
Do we cross off prairie dog little ideas?
No, I just think
Okay.
I'd suggest that you come up with 2
Several.
or 3 or 4 goals that you want to accomplish, and then use those as discussion points for the image, whatever the icon is.
Well, I mean, back to Cincinnati, we moved here from Chicago, but Chicago had the cows,
Yeah.
and Arlington Heights, where we lived, had the racehorses.
Yeah.
And they raised so much money off auction is off, you can't even believe it. I mean, well, Chicago being huge, I mean, it was millions of dollars.
Cows became world.
Oh, they became worldwide.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know if a goal is to raise money, but we can
Well, I do think
Dropbox
so. I mean, I
brainstorm.
think we don't have we don't know what the program looks like. And
Right.
I think establishing goals would help us get a long way to what our program is.
Right.
Okay, so utility box designs. Melinda's been trying to get Alex to get back to us with information on whether or not, so the utility boxes are XL and we really can't wrap those, but the signal boxes we were hoping to be able to wrap. And we're kind of stuck, so we don't have.
We are stuck, and now I really feel like I like your bus stop ideas better.
No, that's your best idea.
Because I was just driving down Rock Creek and, you know, because we built those shelters and it'd be super cheap to put the decals, and you could put them on each side and you can't not see it. You know, sometimes when you're at at a traffic light, if you can't do the XL utility boxes, then they would have to be traffic signal boxes, which are the same size as the XL boxes, but they are obviously going to be at intersections, right? So at first I thought, well, we'd have a captive audience because you're sitting there at a light. And then I was noticing when I'm sitting at the light, I'm looking at my phone, right? I might have slept on it or, putting my mascara on, whatever. But I just thought, oh, that's still okay. But then we were talking about advertising for the big reveal. As I was driving back and I started noticing the bus stops. And they're bigger, and they're at face level, and you can do both sides, and I think it's really inexpensive just to get a decal, which would go on the inside, and we could advertise through, or we could advertise some of our events on the bus stops. We could have, you were just talking about the creative placemaking. You could have I Am Superior.
Yeah,
and
the Superior Experience
the
is a project
superior
that's been
experience, and you could
kicked
be
around.
someplace that someone would want to take a selfie in front of, right? You're sitting at the bus stop anyway, and so you could have like a clock over your head because you're at a bus stop, is the bus late, I don't know, we could get really creative, but when you go home and you're driving around, look at the bus stops. And
Is that someone we have to work with RTD on?
Well, that we definitely need to find out who.
Because
gives us
didn't we
permission
build
to-
those?
No.
No.
Oh, I thought.
And there might be a safety issue,
Right.
Visibility.
visibility
RTD board.
for
Shall I ask her?
people.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we'll have to ask Alex, but because
But there are a lot of times
you actually
ads
uploaded so
in
many
bus stops,
ideas
right?
of
So
people.
it must be
I think
really-
somebody
I
put
did.
a swing inside of a bus stop.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Swing. Oh, that's cute.
So-
Well, but I have a feeling, well, you'll find out, Terry, what the safety issue is if both ends are blocked. I kind of have a feeling that maybe they have to keep it
Yeah,
open.
well, we could
Maybe
do
just
one
the
on one
back or
side. of
something.
it.
Maybe
Anyway,
just
that's,
yeah, okay.
because we have not heard back from the traffic jams. Oh, the other thing is, I don't know if you go HOA, who's in the Rock Creek? So I got the HOA newsletter today, and they are doing some sort of photography exhibit of what does Superior mean to you. And I thought,
Oh, wait,
that's
because that was our idea.
That was our idea.
One of our,
That might, let me
Yes.
find out about that, because that might
So-
be the project where.
That's what so
All
I
talking about.
emailed her or him, I don't know who
But
it
they're
was.
commissioning a professional artist. They're not
not
actually
just
looking for
anybody.
residents to submit their art. I read
Because
it,
one of
and
the things
they
we
said we
had-
want to commission an artist, a
But we could
photographer.
still maybe take some of those, but maybe, I want to find out where they're planning on putting those pictures. And maybe we could take some of those pictures and put it in the storefronts along with ours, like
well,
taking.
yeah, because we talked about what is Superior about Superior as one of our, what do you call them? Those participatory arts, and you can take somehow these pictures and put them on a mural.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have the Flatirons is the ultimate picture, for instance, but everybody takes the picture, Instagram it, and you put it on these murals. That would be participatory art that we were going to put in the storefronts in Superior.
Yeah, something creative. So
Something
I
creative
wanted
like
just
that.
to talk to them, see
Yeah.
what
Oh,
they're
yeah,
doing, and
yeah.
if they're spending money on it, and then maybe we don't have to, and we could take, hey,
Yeah,
that's a
what is
great
their-
idea.
what is their
Where do you
end
want to
goal?
display it? Perhaps in an empty storefront, in Brixmor, so.
Is there any
Anyway.
possibility for banners? I mean, I'm just, the use of, as you see in cities too, is this a city that would, do we have the
We have
topography for banners? Like
code, what would you call it? It's a town code that disallows flag banners, and so I need to look into what that actually means.
You know, I'm talking about
Yeah.
the big ones that are for museums and like opening the down, public,
Yeah.
but I'm just, that would be a way, again, if it's a town ordinance, it's
Yeah,
obviously.
I'll look into what kind of temporary banners are allowed.
But what is our relationship with the HOA?
What do you mean, the towns?
Have we done events together or?
They do,
are they
so
open
movie
to-
night, so most all of the events, movie night, Oktoberfest, all of those are town-wide.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they're paid for by the Rock Creek HOA,
But the whole town's invited.
the whole town
But
is
they're,
invited.
but they're on town property, so.
Exactly.
That is a way that the HOA gets to use the town property by including everybody in it. When they do casino night, it's not on town property and it is exclusive to the HOA.
Right.
So there are, yeah, reasons,
Okay.
so that's what I know.
I'm surprised actually that they're doing it, because I know that the HOA, Mike was on the board for Rock Creek before he moved. So
Doing what?
he was treasurer for Rock Creek HOA.
No, but you're surprised they're doing what?
Spending the money for the hire a professional photographer, because I know they were getting a lot of, fair amount of pushback for their dues costs and this kind of stuff. They used to do, Rock Creek used to do the lights, which they now share with the town, the Holly lights.
So we
Okay.
need to move on to the dance experience, and that we envision, let me know if it's not this vision, to be a standalone event at Wildflower Park, right? So one thought I had is that during the main events, perhaps we could hire somebody to do line dancing or some kind of instruction at the main event, and then it would sort of carry over into the pop-up event at Wildflower. So that way there's a little bit of continuity. It's not just this one random dance experience. It's just a thought I had. I mean, we still need to flesh out what the main event really is, but that was just a thought for including the dance experience. And I can't remember, did anyone take the lead on that?
Yes. And I have not done anything, but yes.
Okay.
Well, and can I add to that, these can go along with the master planning process. So again, we'll have some energy from the consultants to help flush these out and, make it work. And then I'm involved now and can help with strategizing and the to-do list. And then also, you had an idea that there may be some funding to hire like a planner, if you will, to carry out the pop-up work, so.
To help us with this, so we aren't all killing ourselves trying to do all the events.
And that's possible.
So.
Oh, I thought that was Dina.
Well, these pop-up events are going to be a whole different
Okay.
thing than what
The main events?
my events are, yeah. So I'm in charge of the Chili Fest and 4th of July.
Okay.
And Arbor Day. And so I don't think I can do any more events than those.
Okay, so the main event,
So you aren't planning the main event?
I could oversee somebody planning it, but I would not be
Well,
the.
that is a real bummer.
that is a
Yeah.
real bummer.
Yeah, I thought you were our person.
Well, I don't think, I will double check, but as far as I understand that, any new events that were created through your work plan are not 100% under my to-do list. So I think we still need to flush out the tasks.
Well, that's good, because then
Yeah.
within our, because if
We need somebody.
we're the lead, if we're the lead on it, I'm the lead for
Yeah.
main events.
And I mentioned to Patrick that there was some talk about potentially hiring, maybe it's a creative person of some sort to do the pop-ups. He was fine with that, if that's what you wanted to do with the budget. So that person could be a,
Who did we talk to?
Somebody told us that, I mean, because we were talking about the main
Dina
event,
was gonna be.
that Dina was going to,
No, but who'd we talk to originally when we were talking about the arts?
oh, the party planner person.
Yes. Who was that? The
Yeah,
person who does
The
the
party
Louisville
planner.
Arts.
The Louisville, that we were,
Oh, Kelly, the
Kelly.
farmer's market.
the
lady.
farmer's market lady.
Yes.
So but part of this is we need to get moving because
We do.
they're already, I mean, I'm seeing advertisements for all these summer festivals and getting the artists on board and all of that kind of thing. So there is a couple that run the Lafayette one that I do know, and they would, I don't know what their availability is, but we could reach out to them.
Well, and we had
as
talked
well.
about Katie Rummel too.
And there's a possibility of Katie running the event as well. So that's,
And there's a few more resources too. I mean, if you wanted to do like a call or, you know, I don't know that it has to be an RFP because it's such a small budget, but if you needed more resources, I could certainly help you find a few people to consider.
Well, I think, I'll wait till you get to the agenda.
what do you mean?
Well, we'll
I
wait,
think
we still have a
enough-
couple things before we get to main events.
We probably have enough hands, unskilled hands. It's leadership that we need, that somebody that's going to spend the time on the main event.
Well,
And Daryl is
nobody
busy.
should, none of us on this board should be doing that.
I am not a
Somebody
party
should be a paid
planner.
person that is planning the event. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be
It's a lot, that's a
us
big project.
doing that planning.
I mean, knowing, having done the beer fest,
And whether it's Dina or we hire somebody, we'll get it done.
Done,
But it's
okay.
not, we're the idea people, and yes, we do a lot of stuff, but this is not something that we have
Yeah.
the time or the energy to.
Expertise.
or
and
the
expertise, I mean, I think
to do.
knowing that the town wants it to be, the main events to be really successful and to start really that standard of this is a community, arts, music, food, whatever, I would think that they would want a paid person, whomever
No,
that
I think
is.
they do. I
Yeah.
think it's just, we don't know.
We don't know who
We
that
don't know
is.
if
Okay.
it's staff or if we hire. When we were originally thinking about it, we were going to hire somebody, so it's
Exactly.
not that far.
Kelly-
My
from-
impression was that I would supervise whoever it was.
Okay,
It's not far off. We just need to get moving on it, that's all.
So, and by getting moving on it, like what can we start doing tomorrow to find this person? Like
Well, I
what-
can first talk to Patrick about the details of hiring.
Okay,
And then, once we know that process, then we can maybe get a list of people to consider. And I can certainly reach out to them and gauge interest. And then if we have to do some sort of proposal process, I can facilitate that.
okay.
Okay,
okay, just so we have,
okay.
Yeah.
and even in Rock Creek, back to their events, they have a person that does their.
Right, and when we were trying to do the main event over there, we actually contacted her and she was not available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. We just need to get moving because people are not going to be available. So,
Do you just want to flip the agenda or should we wait?
well, we did, I mean,
Questions?
so I think that we need to have some of these questions answered before we actually, and I don't know, I mean, it's already 8:10, so.
Yeah,
Do
And
we
I
wanna-
put the main events as a separate, and I should have not done that. I think they're.
no, I think it is,
It's fine, it's separate from
It is
pop-ups in our
separate. It's not a
minds, so
pop-up.
It's fine. It's just,
my only question then, did Patrick or someone talk to Brixmore? So we have the okay, we know we have the dates now from the town board meeting.
We don't have the okay from Brixmor. We're going to do a site visit and go over the details with them.
Okay, a site visit to look at the two different sites?
Right.
Okay,
okay.
Yeah.
because I know that the board had some very strong feelings about it at the meeting.
They like.
But not the whole, I mean, we, yeah.
Too.
So I don't have to worry about that. Someone from the town of Superior is reaching out to Brixmor right away because it would be disaster if Brixmor
Yes.
was not in the loop and then
Yes.
they said, no, you cannot do these things. Then
Right.
we're going to be like backpedaling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
so that's on my to-do list after this meeting.
Okay,
For sure.
let's see, what are we now, 1st of March?
Yes.
And we're planning on doing it the third Saturday in June.
Okay.
Well, we might
Okay.
have to change our thinking on dates.
And start in July, maybe?
Right. I did this
Okay.
brainstorming list here with Patrick before you guys came. This is sort of the town's event schedule as we see it. And anything more than this list is probably not functionally doable with the manpower we have.
National Day.
What is,
National Trails Day?
No, National Day of Service, is that one where the fire department puts on?
I'm not
No,
sure.
that's the something night out.
Oh, that is the safety
I
night
forget
out or
what it
something.
is, but it's not a town event. I
What
mean,
is next day of service?
National Day of
And
Service.
actually, 2 events got deleted from that list. I don't know where they went. Someone must have erased it after we wrote it. But there are a couple more events that are not listed. The December,
Should they be
there's
up
2
there?
more events in September.
Well, yeah, there's the December one that they used to have at
Yeah.
Fountain,
There's
I mean,
2
at Aspen
December
Park.
ones that were
No, there's Skate with Santa.
Skate
is
with
now
Santa, but
the-
used to be the.
Yeah, I took
Yeah.
a picture of it before. It looks
Yeah.
like someone,
So-
maybe brushed by.
Okay, so we need to get answers to a bunch of main event questions before we move
Soon.
forward with that, yes. The Zephyrin triptych is the next thing, and the reveal party planning. So,
Does May seem like the reasonable date of when this is gonna happen, or?
Yeah, we're looking at May right now, knowing that we're a little delayed on trying to figure out what the bases are gonna be.
Okay.
So I'm working on.
How is that going to be handled moving forward?
Well, right now we have 2 design concept for the bases, and we're asking for a 3rd concept that's made of stone. So a veneer stone of the bases. So unfortunately, we've hit vacation time for a couple of the staff at that firm. So I probably won't have any more information for about 2 more weeks on what the 3rd option even is going to look like. So they will design a 3rd option with a stone veneer for the bases.
and this is the same sign company?
Da Vinci.
It's Da Vinci.
So it's Da Vinci? Oh,
So,
well, Patrick said Da Vinci probably couldn't do that, make rounded edges so that it looked like stone.
Yeah, I don't know when he would have
No, when
said
you-
that, but
Yeah, he did. He said he had a different company besides Da Vinci that did the Wildflower Playground
That was $30,000.
facade.
I think
that was the,
cheaper one.
no,
No,
he doesn't know the pricing, and the slide is $300,000.
The wildflower slide, which is very
my
cool.
impression is he was going to,
There might be another vendor that he is looking at.
yeah, try and get a vendor that had rounded edges instead of pedestals.
he hasn't mentioned that to me, and so my marching orders are to work with Da Vinci on getting the 3rd option with the stone veneer base.
And then even,
Yeah,
what was the
even-
turnaround time for even the pedestals that were presented?
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So mine,
No, the board
That
members
one's,
definitely said that they liked and preferred the rounded edges. It sounds like you're still talking about right angle pedestals.
I don't know, they have not started design, so they are on vacation, so I have to wait
Da
until they get
Vinci's on
back.
vacation.
Yes.
Will
Yeah,
our-
2 of their staff are on vacation.
Will our input be taken as to which of these, or is this a board decision?
Yeah,
Well-
no, we should be in on it. We should
and the
definitely
board
be
can
in on
decide
it.
that they want to be in on it, but I think it's I feel like it's a collective decision. And I am actually very, very concerned that we're having a sign company do this.
Me too.
Yes.
And it's not an art
Yes.
company. And that is a concern that I wrote to you and to Patrick.
Yes.
So, yeah, they can come back with a 3rd concept, but at the end of the day, this needs to be right, and it needs to be approved by the board. They need to
Kevin
think.
said as much.
He's
that
sitting
we-
right behind us.
Yeah.
Kevin's like back
You need
here.
to be in on
So-
this.
Yeah, I'm really, so,
He's
stole my
on.
credit card, so.
He's on hold,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Like I canceling cards and doing all that, so I don't want to, I've now been on hold forever and all.
Yeah, no, and
But yeah, so I'm listening, I agree with you. I also thought that,
I would like to say, I think the sign company just flies in the face of everything in my opinion, that we've tried to do so far with a major piece of art.
Yeah.
So I would be happy to,
I would feel better of the 2 designs. I felt like it fit, but I don't think either one of those fit, and I don't know that they can go the direction. I've looked at their website.
Oh, the Da Vinci website.
And I don't think they have anything that they have put on their website that says that they can
Will be
pull this off.
basically
So,
a substantial structure to hold saying
It's
it's a piece
not
of
that,
artwork.
it's that it's the right looking
Yeah.
structure.
Right, exactly, that's what I'm saying.
It's supposed to be a piece of
And we're
the
not
art,
calling
not
it
just a
pedestal,
pedestal.
whatever we're calling it.
Absolutely,
It's a
and
piece of
what
it.
we've got is just pedestals.
Right, but if we're talking about it's supposed to be part of the art, then the artist should design it.
And we're beyond that.
Well,
We
that's what I
got to
meant.
deal with what we've got now, which is.
Right, but we can't call it part of the art if the artist is not designing it.
But it could.
Well, yes, we can. The artist did design it.
He didn't.
We're not, we're not
He
creating
actually
independent
stepped away
pedestals
from-
on our
he-
design.
And he stepped away from the design. He absolutely did. He was happy when when the town said, we will look at the rock pedestals. He wanted to have a look at them, but he stepped away from it.
Wow.
He did.
That's too bad.
But
Well,
it's
he didn't
our.
want to pay for them.
No, that wasn't it either. The part of it was, if I remember correctly, we were trying to ask him to go bigger. And so we thought if we took on the cost of the pedestals, that he would actually use that additional monies to make a bigger
To
sculpture.
give more bulk to the sculpture.
And that didn't happen, within the decisions and the contract, the town decided to pay for the pedestals.
Yeah.
So now we are on the hook, I believe, to make sure that they look right.
Right.
And I would
Right.
appreciate if Dow liked them and wanted them, but I don't think that either option that we have seen are workable.
Aesthetically
And I'm
appealing.
really glad to hear you say that, because this is too big a decision. I think we need to be in, it is almost half of the image of the sculpture. And it's
Well-
what's the part that you're going to see close up as you go around.
I don't know, I drove around the roundabout today and the grasses are already like 4 feet tall.
Oh, those are going away.
And they should,
But
and
you
they
can
should.
see that's the height of the base. The
Well,
base
cloud the sculpture.
But they're mounding up,
We
they're
need
gonna
to be
mound
in
up,
that.
and then the
He
pedestals
needs to
go beyond
also-
that.
But we're gonna have plantings around it
Can
that are gonna
he
be
weigh in?
blocking some of the.
The whole
They
idea.
shouldn't.
The
They
whole
shouldn't.
idea, though, is that we're looking, the pedestal isn't our primary piece.
Right.
We want to see the sculpture, so it shouldn't be as, I want to be careful because, at some point in time, cost is going to come into this, and.
And weight.
Well, the weight, the sign people are designing it because it has to do with weight, because we can't go with real stuff.
We can't go with real stones, because I was shocked that they actually weigh more than a ton.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so,
oh my
but
That
we
makes
have
sense,
to, I lost that train of thought, anyway, I feel
I
like,
care about making concessions.
but we do
Yeah.
want to remember that it is the piece of art that is the
Right.
primary thing, and the idea is for our eyes to look up, and the plantings and the pedestals will be really secondary, but we don't want them to be crappy either.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
And
Sorry.
the original
Better.
design is this growth thing and this, abstraction of figures coming out of, and the sharp edges that they have planned so far for these pedestals,
Yeah,
like you said, is just unacceptable. And the color is also unacceptable. The design for the thing is very muted tones, the tones of the metal that's being used, and bright red, orange underneath it as a pedestal is not acceptable.
Nothing was bright red or.
I think we're all in agreement about that, and we don't agree that it's
Oh,
working.
And all
We need
we're
to
trying to
move
work
on.
around is for this, the reveal it may not be till the 1st of May or even the 1st of June.
Right,
I
and
would, at this point, I would.
I'm guessing June.
Yeah.
Could I bring us back to what are we going to do about having input on these bases? I don't want to call them pedestals because then everybody thinks of these.
Well, the bases are.
I'm asking Dina.
Two more.
Me, sorry.
So we need to have input on the choice of these pedestals, if you will. or
Yeah, and I don't know
bases.
what that process looks like, if it's that the designer, whoever is the designer gives it to me and then I provide it to you at a meeting, or does it go, I don't know if it goes from the designer to the town manager to the board. I
No,
don't
we
know
need to
how
be in that. We need to be in that loop. This is too
Okay.
important.
Well, what I can do is pass that on and then just get back to you about that process.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
When Dow, and I've forgotten, when Dow presented his ideas to us, what did he have them on? Did he
It was
just
a
have,
boulder-looking
on a
thing.
boulder
Yeah,
thing?
the boulder thing.
Is it at all possible to actually focus on what he tried to create.
He did a black and white drawing.
Okay.
And then the next thing he gave was something that I don't think any of us, I mean, I think everybody thinks about the black and white drawing, that it was a, sort of a sculpted rock a little bit.
Jagged.
Yeah.
Yeah, sculpted rock, that's,
Sculpted rock.
he was gonna cut it,
And
remember?
he was part of the piece, and
Yeah.
I really do, and I know we can't just keep belaboring it, but I agree that it is absolutely imperative, and I'm hearing that from everybody, that we're on board with the right kind of support, if you will, for these pieces, or it would just, and I would think he would be in on that,
Well, the artist wants to be, but he doesn't, I mean, he doesn't have to be. We can make that decision separate from him.
But I think we should honor his drawing as much as possible. They go together. The basis and the sculptures go together.
He actually saw the pedestals and thought they were okay.
He liked the rest.
So.
I'm not okay with it.
Exactly, that's why we are in the loop, and so it's
Yeah.
going to, we will have input, so.
I know Jane's not okay.
And
I'm hearing, I'm not,
I know you're all of us
I don't want to
pass.
no, I
So
just.
we can actually, if we think June is, or May, I mean, we can actually discuss the reveal party at another date and move that off of the agenda.
especially because we might have more venue options.
Right, exactly.
More what?
So more venue options. The hotel.
Oh, absolutely.
If
If
it's pushed back
if the
till
Elements
June.
is open the 1st of June, we might be okay having it there and.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And so main events, planning and logistics, we're going to move that off. We need some answers on main event before we move forward.
But let's see, it's the 1st of March, so I'm hoping that by 3 weeks from now, right? Is that a time frame? Because I was actually going to go into Dropbox and do a time frame for the main events.
Well, what is 3 weeks from now?
That we'll know if Brixmore, you guys will have done the walk with Brixmore to even know if that's an
I
option.
hope even before that. I'd like to set something next week.
Okay,
Yeah, so tomorrow I'll go back to the office and I'll do some of these things first.
okay. And
Including.
the Brixmore is a biggie,
events.
because if they say no,
Yeah.
Well, the Brixmore and finding somebody.
yes, an
figuring
event
out-
planner to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, to bring in
Okay.
all the stuff that we need.
All
Okay.
right. And then the training and conferences is the last thing on the agenda. Can you look this up a little so we can see? Thank you.
Here we go.
So the Colorado Creative Industries is a organization in Colorado that they have their, you could look at it online. They have a 2-day event in Salida, and I went to one a couple of years ago in Fort Collins, and it's got a lot of good information. Could be interesting to go to. What are the webinars that you?
Oh, yeah, so I'm going to take these webinars, and I thought if anyone wants to join me, I'm already going to be doing them. We could meet in my office or conference room or somewhere. Creative placemaking, working with artists, and creative placemaking and your event. So
Cool.
they're 1-hour webinars. Just let me know ahead of time if you
Where's
want to
your
come.
office?
In the sports stable. We could either meet here or at the sports stable.
Okay.
Let's do it here,
Okay.
if we can.
You just need us to let you know?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, just RSVP. if you
How about
want
I'll
to.
send out an email and you guys can RSVP back. And then
Or
I'll
I can
make a
make
list.
a doodle poll and people
Oh,
can
great.
say whether they want to do the March or the April or both. And
Okay.
then that way you know. So that way it doesn't have to.
Because
go
do we
out
have a
emails.
PowerPoint projector somewhere? Probably not in your office, right?
Well, we have a community room. We have 2 community rooms
Right.
in the sports stable we could use.
Remember
Well,
one
yeah.
time we sat in there and we did all the art
And
pieces
actually,
Well, that's where
there's a
they're
big
probably are, so we-
TV in one of the rooms.
Yeah, because then if it's bigger TV, then
The only thing
Yeah.
I would say is remember the sports table is really hard to hear.
it is really hard to hear in the sports table.
Loud.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you prefer here, I can figure that out here.
I could potentially, at least for the April 11th one, probably get Bob's office.
Oh, that's a good idea.
He has his conference.
Yeah, and it's really well
It's in
designed.
Louisville.
It's in
Oh, nice.
Louisville off
Yeah.
of South Boulder Road, but it's well designed for being able
So
to have,
certainly for the April 11th, I can see
Okay.
if that's available.
at 11 a.m. I could even bring over Panera or whatever, we can have lunch.
If we need a place, we can use our
Are you doing the
office.
March 7th? Is that the one you're talking about?
March, she's doing both of them, March
Okay,
7th
but
and
you're
April
looking
11th.
for, yeah, okay.
I I don't know, I have to look, I think I've got all kinds of things on March 7th, so I'm kind of out on that day.
But you will,
But I'll do a
Give us a
Google
way
poll so
to-
that everybody, so that Dina can know who is interested.
Well, and that's a
in doing it.
Thursday at lunch. That's an interesting time. Okay.
So, okay, thank you guys, that was a lot we had to get through, and we mostly got through it all. Thank you for staying.
Thank you for letting me.
Yeah, my gosh,
the best idea of the whole evening.
Quite the marathon.
But you all need to be thanked for all the work you're doing for all of us.
Does anyone want more Art Before You Dig stickers? We've got more to.
Not easy.
These are so
No,
cute.
it's not easy. And thank you for thinking of us.
Yes,
Well, that is a, did you come up with this? Is this your idea?
Oh, wait, well, yes.
Oh, it's so cute.
That is so cute. Art Before You
I
Dig.
do think it's great.
I do too. It's brilliant.
Okay,
you don't need
and you're
these.
posting all the stuff you did earlier on the town website and Art in Superior.
No, she doesn't
Superior
actually.
Public, just where the agenda is held on our town website.
Oh, in the town website, okay.
Yeah.
But I can put it in our Dropbox if you.
Awesome.
Great, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank